All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our season finale of season 4 of the TFTuesday Podcast. My name is Zil. It's good to have you all here. I will say that I fucking hate daylight savings time with a passion because the sun now sets at 4:45 here, and I want to strangle someone. So, fuck all you fucking idiots who came up with daylight savings time. I hate you, and I hope you're all dead. Joining me today is Libra. How are you doing, K-Libra?
I'm doing fine. I'm one of those weirdos who likes that there's more nighttime.
See, I like night as a concept, and I do enjoy night to a degree, but when I cannot leave my house before work hours and have it still have some sort of light out, I start going feral. Like, I need at least a little bit, like, just like a crumb, a smidgen, and it's not doing that for me right now, so I want to murder someone.
Don't you want to go feral? I know, obvious, like, layup
Yes.
fucking joke. So be grateful.
Okay, but, like, there are rules about, like, what you can and can't do, and I have to observe those, so.
Look, everybody knows that when the sun goes down, expectations shift, okay? Every time the sun goes down, people are like, "Oh, it's that time of night," and they just kind of let shit go. You know that's how it is.
You make it sound like every time the sun goes down, like the purge begins or something.
All I'm saying is that people let shit fucking go. Like, ooh, it's nighttime. This is when things get bad. But not a lot of people call the cops.
Well, so far people seem to not be indicating that the tail I'm wearing on my evening walk is indicative I may go werewolf at some point, but I guess we'll get to that point eventually.
Don't worry about it. Besides, again, you see, because it's nighttime, it's like, oh, now that the sun goes down, the weirdos come out. And they just kind of leave you the fuck alone. But if it's in broad daylight, oh my god, the sun's up and you're doing that? Oh, disgusting.
I mean, I do that anyways. I do it anyways. So.
But at any time of day or night, you can sign up to our Patreon.
Is that your Patreon segue?
Yeah, it is, because why the fuck not? It could be morning, noon, day, night. You could be at work. You could kind of like sleepwalk to your desk and do it. You know, it doesn't matter what time zone you're in, as long as you're able to, you know, do it and you have the means and the will, then yeah, please, you can do that. Help us out. If you like this show, you can like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I wonder if it makes the button glow. Have you seen that on videos?
Yes, you showed it to me, and I couldn't fucking believe it that the button will glow when you tell people to like your video. At least the first time you watch the video.
Yeah, you have to reload it if you want to see it again, but it has done it. That and the subscribe button, it does it for both. That's so fucking weird. It's cool and a little fucked up, but...
yeah, slightly unnerving.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, YouTube.
But hey, we're here on YouTube now, so let's make our presence grow, right?
Yeah.
And a little bit of your generosity does help for however long. And you get to join the Discord. Discord is a nice little place to, you know, fraternize with people who are like-minded or more interestedly not like-minded. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And hey, we are as of this recording, we are one subscriber away from hitting 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is very exciting.
Yeah, so, be an OG. The sooner you subscribe and, you know, this channel hits like 1,000 and maybe 2,000 and maybe 10,000. We don't know what could happen. Anything could happen. And you could be like, oh, I'm an OG. I was here before X milestone. It'd be cool for you to brag about that, right?
True. That's true.
And we can shout out the OGs, and then you'll know we're talking about you, the precious few at the beginning.
Well, speaking of OGs, I'm very excited for a guest who's joining us again, back all the way from season 2, and a wonderful conversationalist. Koor, how are you doing?
I've been doing well. I wanted to say that was a really good segue, but I didn't want to interrupt the segue.
It was. I'm impressed, Libra. You did a good job there.
I'm taking cues from other people.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, glad to have you back. And I think we've lined up a fun topic today to kind of chat about, and that's our favorite kinds of TFs and what we love so much about them. Because, I feel like we allude to things that we like all the time. I mean, I often joke about being pool toy Jesus. That one's obviously low-hanging fruit. But, when we talk about the kinds of transformations we like, I feel like because of the structure of the show, we don't always get to really dig into what it is that we really love about these things. And so I figured now would be a good time to kind of chat about that and really get into the weeds of what it is that makes these various kinds of transformations tick personally. So I don't know if anyone would like to go first in terms of volunteering one.
You know what, Zil? You're the host. I think people are eager to know about your tastes, aside from pool toys. Because now people have been feeding you that shit ever since you've been putting it out there. You're the pool toy. You're the pool toy guy now.
Yeah, this is the one episode that like you want to say what you like, because then people will make more things for you. So like, it's like if you ever like I people didn't know I like tar TF, and then I mentioned it one time, and people like were like, "Oh, can you draw me as a tar?" And it's like, yeah, I can do that for you.
That's great. I did see one you did recently, actually. That was like an oil spill, I think, or a gas spill.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very much like that. And I was like, yeah, good shit.
Yeah, people figured out like it's near Ferngully, because that's kind of like the vibe that I like at points. And that's, and people are like, oh, it's like Ferngully. And it's like, that is the inspiration. It's the one thing.
It's the one-to-one here, Oh, man. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Well, then I guess I will start off with one that's maybe less known about myself, because I've got a whole, I drew up a list, obviously pool toys on it. Maybe I'll save that for later. But I think one that I really like that people don't always associate me with actually is orc transformations. I actually really, really like orc transformations.
I realize that now I've seen, you've gotten those a number of times for sure.
I have, yeah. It's actually been a hot minute since I got one recently, but one of the things that, and it's something that I've had a chance to do more with my personal art, honestly. One of the things that I really like about orc transformations, and again, because they're fictional, you can kind of play with the proportions, but I really like the ways in which you can play with proportions for orcs. Obviously, there's, different levels of muscle or weight gain that you can do with those kinds of transformations, both things that I very much love. But more importantly, you can play a lot with the proportions of the arms and the legs, as well as the mouth, the jaw, the face, all of those kinds of things. And I find that playing with proportions in that way is something that I find really fascinating. The idea of your arms are now longer than they were before, and that's just kind of how they sit, because that's how the species you're inhabiting works. Or that, your feet grow to a different size, because again, that's just part and parcel with the species you're becoming. Or, you have a severe underbite now. Those kinds of changes, they're a bit more subtle than a lot of the other kinds of transformations that I dabble in, but there's something that I find really alluring in terms of changing to a degree, but you still are quite recognizable underneath that, and you've become somewhat, monstrous, but not really enough to fully divorce you from, oh yeah, you were totally a human before, or at least you're still humanoid. I think humanoid TFs sometimes can get a bit of a bad rap, or at least a rap of oh, they're too dull, or they're not really interesting. And I think that there's actually a lot that you can explore within their lens. I'd also be remiss to leave out the fact that orcs are often associated with drunkenness, loss of intelligence, and horniness. 3 things which I also butter my biscuit with. So, those are all 2 thumbs up from my end. But yeah, I find that there's something really interesting to be mined there. And I feel like there's a lot less art about exploring that to some degree, because they're not a quote unquote animal. At the end of the day, they are sentient creatures in all forms. And so, especially being very humanoid adjacent, people are kind of is that really enough of a TF? Not saying it's not TF, but is it really enough? And for me, it absolutely is enough. So.
Yeah, I don't see why it isn't. It's drastic. I like extremes of things.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's so many other things to enjoy. I like subtle stuff too, just like a little bit. Just little things can make something like really really shine. So if you're gonna play with monsters and changing bodies and especially faces, it can elevate something a lot. I mean, if you make art and you have somebody come along and say, "Why don't you try this?" and then you do it, and it seems like such a minor change, but it's the same thing if you do that with someone's appearance.
Yeah,
like eyeliner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great one, actually.
Yeah. Oh, what are you going to do? Draw dark, thick lines around your eyes? Well, what's that going to possibly do for the look of your face?
It makes a big difference.
Yep.
Can confirm.
So imagine changing the shape of your brow alone.
Yeah.
So like your brow, the size and shape of the teeth in your mouth, the muzzle, which humans have muzzles, guys. I know.
They really do,
I know.
actually.
You're like... Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have them. And so that changes, and your brow, and like maybe the size like of your like cheekbones and all that stuff. Your face is changing a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually not that subtle, but you want the muzzle stretch, you want everything like that, and sure, me too. Also, the other stuff is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that no one's done like broccoli. You eat broccoli and you slowly turn into an orc because you become bigger and stronger after eating veggies.
Oh my god, that's great.
They're
I
also
haven't seen one
usually
like
green.
that. Yeah.
Because I've seen people do like the blueberry and like turn into like the giant blueberry. So like I'm actually surprised no one's done broccoli for orcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but orcs
especially
and
because like
yeah, but orcs and
well, because
broccoli
also
aren't
like
tied, no?
Well, okay, well, hold on a second, because there is literally a connection between veggies and becoming a big green being, and that's literally the fucking green giant fucking veggie brand, whatever the fuck. So, like, the connection's actually there. I'm
You just gotta throw a
shocked.
dick on them. That's it. Then you're done.
Yeah, literally, that's it.
Well, doesn't the green giant... The green giant is essentially a plant man, and I'd make, like, giant plant monster man.
I mean, yeah, you could do that.
Just
or you could do orc.
Just comes and pre-comes sap.
Mm-hmm. That's how you make maple
Sap
syrup.
and
that would
nectar,
work.
delicious.
Sorry, what did you say?
That's
Cor?
how you make maple syrup.
This is true. Can confirm as a Canadian.
Become a green giant by eating a certain variety of vegetables, but a lot of them. You got to keep eating them.
Yeah.
No, I'm just thinking of scenarios because... But an orc specifically is like, an orc is tied to what? I don't know. And
Well,
I
it can
think
be tied to whatever you want because it's fictional, right?
yeah, it could be. Delicious in Dungeon has orcs, and they're characterized kind of like pig people, but they're very cute.
Interesting.
Yeah, they got like the tusky sort of teeth, and their leader is this lady who looks like really, really adorable because she's got the pig nose, but she is in charge of them, and like I don't know, maybe I'll show you later. But yeah, they eat all kinds of things. Orcs kind of have the whole savage thing. I don't think sitting down in front of a plate of broccoli made people think, oh, big, strong, green thing, which makes sense when you put it that way, but there's no association tied to it. But there can be now. This can change.
Yeah.
Yeah, propagandize eating broccoli. Make more people eat broccoli and be strong.
Broccoli is good. I wish I would have eaten broccoli more when I was growing up, It's just
broccoli's like one of my favorite veggies, honestly. So.
I only like the
People
florets. If the stem I hate with a passion, and that's like the most nutritious part, I think, which is really bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, I eat the fucking whole goddamn tree pretty much. They when I get Chinese food and they have just those big hunks of broccoli and you gotta really crunch through the whole thing. I like those. I like big crunchy broccoli.
Works good. Okay, Corey, you share one.
I like. It's hard. So if we're going with like weird TFs, I'm actually not sure, which I feel like is a sin to say for the simple fact that if anyone knows my artwork, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like the actual TF I like is like species TF, because I like the idea of changing into something else and having different abilities or having different problems and like having those situations where you have to think through like the complex like interactions between everything. So like
Right.
that's my like the most basic version of TF is the thing that I like. So then the weird things kind of always add on top of that. So I think
Right.
the most recent one that I've like started to actually enjoy, which I think is kind of funny for this, is a form of merging, which is like what I was saying earlier. There's like you have a person wearing like the tar type of like Halloween suit, and then they come together and they just become like one being. I think that's kind of interesting. Like I've seen a few pictures that have been really fun, or had that mechanic where like somebody's now become the other, and the other person has to walk around, but like they both have to like still work together, and it's like, I find that to be really interesting. At least recently. That's because it's always collecting all the TFs. You get a new one all the time.
Oh yeah. So when it comes to that kind of merging, I'm curious, is it because that kind of merging they have to work together after the fact? Because I've obviously seen plenty of merge TF where like, it's really just one person's kind of in control and the other one's like along for the ride afterwards.
Yeah, I like the ones where like, because there hasn't been that many, or I haven't found that many where it's like they actually have to work together, and like that's like the interesting situation of like, if now you're an ass and you are the one that has to mostly push, like how does that work? Or sometimes the one for the along the ride is also fun, like the udder one where it's like, oh well, now they're an udder, they need to be like milked all the time. Well, now you have to make sure that they're okay, but also like you're now just a cow. How are you supposed to do that? It's like, I find that to be like a very interesting situation. And that's where that's the weirdest one I can think of. Again, I feel like that's a weird to say for my artwork, but off the top of my head, that's like the for me personally, that's like the weirdest one, because I'm not a big mergy person.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's interesting you mentioned that kind of scenario, because I know that like, and there's plenty of like merge like TFs that I've like been into over the years. I found I've moved away to some degree from merge TF because of cough color out of space, but I do find that one really interesting. And you make an interesting point there about like, using the cow one as an example, where it's like, oh, you're an udder, for example, and the other person wants to work with you, but like what can they realistically do as a cow? There's an interesting like codependency kind of model that ends up in those situations, and again, I agree, I don't think I see a lot of those, but when they do come up, I feel like they lend themselves much more towards like telling an interesting story. Obviously, like mostly I've seen them in art, but from like a writing or storytelling perspective, I feel like there's actually a lot that you can do with that kind of a situation, particularly in terms of like long-term stuff.
Yeah, I feel like
say that. Good.
I was gonna say writing that would probably be a lot easier than artwork, but there's been a few artworks of it.
Oh yeah,
little blurbs and stuff like that. Of course, to tell that kind of scenario more specifically, you just have to dedicate more time and make more, which is on whoever's making it to care enough to do it. But I mean, I think of like other potentials and stuff, because I like when Griff has made merging transformations, and it's like super intimate and they're just becoming a new creature together, and I always thought that was really cool. Yeah, because sex gets described as like two becoming one sort of thing, and that's that's putting all those ideas together and more.
Yeah, merging that with TF. Haha.
Yeah, merging that with transformation and merging.
Yeah, exactly.
Merging.
Merging your merge so you can merge your merge.
Exactly.
All right, so I like Frog Girls. I don't bring it up specifically on the show, because I mentioned like frog transformations and stuff like that, but I like Frog Girls, and I've seen so many interesting things done with them. Frogs can have all kinds of proportions, and you can embellish all kinds of features on them, and you can make really interesting faces. I really like it when they end up having really wide mouths and maws and stuff like that, but keeping a mostly human head and facial structure, but just throwing it off a bit with like whatever features you want to embellish. They could have really, really big eyes, which when you make them too big, they can be off-putting. When you make them big enough, they can be very, very cute. Yeah. And all kinds of stuff. There's somebody that goes by, I think, like Emma the Frog Girl, and they have a FA account, but also a Twitter. And I remember seeing the character sheet, and their version of the Frog Girl is kind of basic. They got interesting little hands and feet that kind of like taper in a soft way, but their character specifically, for instance, doesn't have teeth. So they have dedicated dentures so they can eat certain things that they would like to, like a burger.
Yeah.
Because frogs typically don't have teeth. But I mean,
okay, that makes sense.
But you don't have to obey that. You know,
you can blend the
you don't
burger.
have to. They could just swallow it whole like a duck. You know.
Yeah.
And but that's if you want to, because frogs are so incredibly there's so much variety to them. Like I discovered the other day, there's a frog with heart-shaped pupils.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so fucking cute. I was like, oh,
it's adorable.
Yeah, they're amazing, and they go from like really pretty to incredibly fucking strange. I probably already mentioned at some point on the show the frog that the eggs get embedded in its back, so it gives birth out of its back.
Yes, that's so metal.
Yeah, there's those. There's the fact that there's the one that in order to keep its skin properly moisturized, it has to push its own secretions around its body. So it uses its very long legs to its rear legs, by the way, mostly to like go up its own back, and it's like so absurdly flexible. There is so much shit that you can do with a frog and frog girls and stuff. Yeah, there's got to be like at least one idea that would appeal to somebody who otherwise would think like, why would I? But I also am saying like frog girls, or you could say like frog guys, people, whatever the fuck you want to make. Frog humanoid things are fucking great. Like I really get entertained. Somebody who's made like a glass one where, you can see inside of them, which you can make either very cool to look at or very unsettling. It's whatever the fuck you want. And that's one of the reasons I really, really love that stuff.
So it's the ability that they can range from the very cute to the very uncanny that really stands out to some degree.
Yep, absolutely. It's a ton of fun to think of, how do I want to make this today? Because you can also do the thing where if you like really big hands, or you like really big feet, or just like really big extremities, or you want them to be normal sized, or I don't fucking know, it doesn't matter. The numbers of fingers and toes can vary. The lengths of them can vary. You can do pretty much like anything you fucking want. I, for instance, have wanted to make something that kind of stands apart from how people might make it, because some people will say make a frog girl with hair, right? Like, okay, that's typical. It doesn't bother me. And I was thinking, if I wanted to make it more frog-like, but I want hair, but I don't want to mix that in, what do I do? So I thought to myself, what if I just alluded to hair with something else? So what do frogs have or make that still fits the bill? And I thought, they make slime, pretty much. They make slime, they make mucus, all that kind of stuff. They have like a very thick membrane that kind of like holds onto their head. Sort of looks like hair, or maybe it continuously drips. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, see an example, and it still like fits the theme. I love that shit. And so having somebody turn into something like frog person, I think is great fun, because what the funny thing is, that it also is a humanoid transformation. They wouldn't be getting like the really weird anatomy, because frogs are built very fucking weird. Some of them are just like mouths with little legs and feet, and we know this. But if you keep them humanoid, you could still do like all kinds of fucking crazy things with them too, and just that whole experience, that whole concept. Think about it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So I've definitely gotten a decent amount of content, at least on like this front, but I think it merits talking about. So I was a dinosaur child. The first kinds of TF that I experienced that I was like, oh, this is a thing I like, was dinosaur content. So dinosaurs definitely very much imprinted on me. I think one of the most interesting things about dinosaur transformations for me, though, is the fact that dinosaur is such a like catch-all label that it can be so varied in what you're actually going for. Like, is it a carnivorous or herbivore type dinosaur? Is it in the sea? Is it in the sky? Is it on land? Like, what kind of proportions do you want it to have? We got like 20 over here that can fit your criteria. You want a long neck? We got plenty. You want a big tail? We got plenty. You want one with short little arms? Well, we got a few. Like, there's a lot that you can kind of cycle through, and I find that dinosaurs in particular have a lot of very interesting visual characteristics. And kind of like layered on top of that is the element of like, at the end of the day, we are approximating what we thought they looked like, and like that has changed over time. So, you know, at the time when I was first exposed to them, it was very much like scales is how they looked. They were scaly, reptilian like, blah blah blah. Now a lot of the focus is like, actually many of them had feathers because they're, you know, birds kind of descended from them, and that's kind of the lineage. So it's, you know, there's a lot of avian stuff you can emphasize. And then there's been kind of like discussions about, okay, well, you know, can we really ever know one way or the other? There's kind of an opportunity to fictionalize them into a way that I think can then appeal to someone directly. And so because of that, the broad kind of swath of options and the malleableness of each form, I think allows for kind of a like a specificity towards the kind of TF you can have out of it, and you can really craft it around what you like. And as someone who likes a variety of different things, I can go to dinosaur and be like, well, I'm going to pick this one or I'm going to pick that one, and they're all still like dinosaurs, but I get to have like this huge sampling of things to pick from. I mean, you know, Ankylosaurus is my favorite. I love that creature. Absolute tank, with a tail like a club that could take out a T-Rex. Like, that's my kind of dude.
I always thought that was the best fucking one. When I first learned about it, I thought, well, why is the T-Rex supposed to be the king if that thing can fuck it up?
Yeah. Like, sorry, that's the best one, like, bar none. That's the real king. But, you know, like, I could do that, or I could do, like, an ichthyosaur if I want to do something that's, like, aquatic and has, like, a really long neck and is also carnivorous and has, like, those flippers and shit. Like, again, very cool.
They're, like, real monsters that we had.
Yeah, yeah. They are essentially real monsters that we
still have them.
Whether you're
because they're like little chickens. They're just running around. Or the ostrich. The ostrich is still a dinosaur.
True. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Ostriches are fucking terrifying.
They'll murder you. They'll murder your entire family. They'll come into your house and destroy you.
Yeah. Like, straight up, you do not fuck with an ostrich. That thing will outrun you. It will murder everyone that you care about, and it will laugh in your face.
It's always the things that you think are goofy or nice. You have to respect them. Because, okay, so the ostrich can murder you. Kangaroos can brutally murder you.
Oh, yeah.
Bears can murder you, and, like, they're, like, the most petable looking thing in the world. It's quite upsetting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of things are petable. I think the funny thing is how
everything is petable once.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's funny how there are things that turn out to be more petable the worse they look.
Yes, that's true.
Like,
and conversely, things that look petable are absolutely do not fucking, you should not.
Do not touch them. Fucking local spider, you could probably touch those and be completely okay. You will never want to touch them. You know, they're more scared of you. They'll often try to avoid you. They don't want any part of you. And if they are on you, then you've kind of made a friend in a spider. Assuming that they decided to actually crawl on something like your finger and that you're like putting it in front of them. Otherwise, they don't want to fucking deal with you. You're probably safer around a shark than something like a kangaroo, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Sharks are just silly sea dogs. Like, they're just silly little boys.
Yeah, like, obviously fucking respect them. But even regular dogs can fucking kill you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just don't think about it. Like, oh, they're so sweet, but you know, a dog bites you, you're scared out of your fucking mind. You forgot they could do that.
Yeah, because they're just a mini wolf. Like wolves. Like it's
Yeah.
it's always very weird. I guess going a little to TF, it's surprising how many people have a wolf sona, but they're like normal sized. When in real life, wolves are like these gigantic things that like
Yes.
they're tanks, and it's like you see them from a distance, and they're like, oh, they're just like a little lab. Oh my god, it's like they're just really big things. So
Yeah, you get close to them, you're fucked.
So it's the dog is just a little bitty one, and then the Chihuahua is like the micro one, and that one, if it was bigger,
Yeah.
would just destroy the world.
See, you can do micro TF with just canines.
Yeah, you have a little slider, and like if you're really big, you turn to a wolf, and as you like grow smaller, you just start turning into like smaller and smaller dogs until you're like a little Chihuahua.
Okay. What if a Chihuahua had the ability to jump like a cat? I bet you nobody would fuck with a Chihuahua anymore.
I mean, that's what like a cockroach is, right? Like they're scary, but the moment that they jump, they become like a nuclear level threat at that point, because like they have more range at that point.
Oh man,
Or if they start flying.
Yeah, you never.
Yeah.
Once it starts flying, that's like unlocking like level 9,000. Like you run the fuck away. Like no, you're not touching that.
Yeah, literally.
Here's a little story for everybody. I was down in Florida, great start, at a hotel lobby, and I saw what looked like a butterfly, and I thought, you know what? This is like what is? How did a butterfly get into the lobby? And then it lands, and it was a fucking roach.
Yeah, Florida, you have to be really careful about. So I'm from Florida, and everyone is always like surprised how afraid of bugs I am. But like when I was a kid, every teacher and parent would be like, these bugs will murder you, they will destroy you, never touch them, because like you'll find a lot of really weird things in Florida. It's not Australia levels, but like there's definitely things that like
Yeah.
it will get you. They like there's, I guess black widows are everywhere, but the only time I've ever seen them are in Florida.
Florida, yeah. It's funny, like you kind of alluded, like everyone talks about Australia, and obviously like, yeah, the level of like bugs there is like nuclear level, but in terms of coming from a North American perspective, the place I always hear about like don't fuck with the bugs is Florida. Like I don't know what happens, you cross the fucking Florida Georgia line and all of a sudden these terrifying things come out of the woodwork.
Oh, I know what happened. They went and they fucking built places in a swamp. People weren't meant to live there in the fucking first place.
Yeah, it is.
And now they're surprised.
Yeah.
Like, why are these inhumane things around us? Because get the fuck out, asshole. That's
Yeah,
why.
if you ever want to transform into an alligator, there's an entire alley in Florida that's just filled with alligators that sit right next to the fence, and that's how you TF. You just go there, then you pet one, and then you turn into one. You go into the Everglades.
And it's
Yeah,
also
pretty
really
much.
close to a dinosaur because those things are also largely unchanged.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is true.
So it's great because that between like sharks, alligators, things like that. If you want to hear a funny rant about how unchanged they are, there's you can look up Archer clip where he's talking about his intense fear of gators and crocodiles, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Look, they've been unchanged for millions of years. You know why? Because they didn't have to change. Because they're the perfect killing machine, okay?"
Yeah, I mean, if you've got no evolutionary pressure on you to change, then why the fuck would you, right?
Yeah.
So I want to let Core go next, but I want to ask first, what kind of dinosaur TF would you pick, you two?
I remember being asked this a long time ago and with a request I got to make, and I couldn't pick anything. I think I could just pick like a few different things for fun and sample them, but there isn't one that stands out to me. Like, I think a raptor of some kind is an easy pick.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the more bird-like features. I find it a more appealing prospect because I could actually be like bright and colorful and shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be really basic again and say T-Rex, because then I can be really big, and then I can just like eat all the time, and no one can stop me.
Yeah.
Except for the one other dinosaur, but I just wouldn't go near them. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you avoid the ankylosaurus, then you're not going to have any issues, right? So, but no, I like T-Rex. I'm a fan of those. They're fun. Also, the little arms are funny to me. It's cute.
And it's really
Made
neat
for
how.
extreme changes. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
I would say they make for extreme changes, so I like it when people make art of this stuff. Man. What were you gonna say?
Yeah.
I was gonna say one cool thing about dinosaurs that people have started to update is like the feathers, like you'd mentioned earlier, where like people started off with scales, and now people are like, oh crap, I have to be more accurate. So like there's like a lot more variety now, and like people have updated their sonas with that. It's been interesting.
Yeah, there's oh my gosh, what's his name? I think his name is Tags.
Yes.
Who has a dinosaur sona, and I saw that he got a fursuit recently, and the hair is feathers, and that it looks so good. And I was like, that's so fucking inventive. Like, hats off to you for making that adaptation and making it work so fucking well. Like, absolute banger, 10 out of 10. Like, and the maker who did the suit, again, absolute banger. I was like really impressed when I saw it because it was so like aesthetically appealing.
Yeah, and he's been having a lot of fun with it too, which has been really cool to see.
Yeah.
One TF that I don't see a lot of, but would actually be cooler to see is I think I've mentioned this at another episode, is like language, how turning into something affects your like visual perception and or like understanding of things. So like if you turn into a bird, you can be really smart, but like maybe you can't read anymore. And like story wise, that seems like a really cool aspect to have, or like even art wise. Which, you know, I could do, but we're gonna ignore that, is to like if you are like have like a sign or something, you could actually like change the wording so like you see the effect of the transformation outside of just the creature itself. And that's always a fascinating thing. Still haven't made it, but and a lot of other people haven't either, but like it is actually one of the things that I think about a lot, and then I'm like, I should do that, and then I don't because I'm busy or lazy.
No, I think you bring up a really good point too, because I've definitely seen at least elements of that when it comes to like, oh, if you turned into like, let's say an elf or something, like with more of like it's a fantasy change, so therefore the language changes. I've obviously seen it with Lombax before too, but like it is something that would fundamentally come into play with so many other kinds of TFs, animalistic and otherwise, and it's interesting that it doesn't get brought up more. I wonder if one of the reasons why maybe sometimes it's less explored is because there's a struggle to depict it visually, at least in the sense of like, if you want to show it going from one thing to the other, it has to be inherently like part of like a sequence. And then, I don't know, maybe there's like a block there of like, oh, well, I found this thing interesting, but I don't want to like make a whole sequence out of it because I know that's like obviously a whole thing. But I do feel like it's ripe for experimentation, especially from like the animal perspective, because like you mentioned, like different species have different senses, and so they may be able to perceive things, but losing the ability to potentially read something would be a really interesting side effect, especially if it was like for example, like if you were doing a world building thing and it was still like an anthropomorphic creature you're coming into, but the same thing happened. I think that would be something that would be interesting to explore.
Actually, I think I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but like a interesting thing I've seen more often is like, I guess people got into D&D, so like they're starting to like mess with like RPG stats. And so like the one thing that I've seen a lot is intelligence of making a himbo. And like but like when you start going towards that, I wonder if somebody's going to start making the connection of like, oh, I wonder how else I can do this besides just having like a negative int. And like maybe that may actually be the path where people start to like affect it to where it's like, oh, well, here's an actual way that their intelligence was affected, or like stuff like that where they can be in like a bar and then some like, I guess again, the signage thing where like the signs look different or the way they write is like more scribbly and stuff. Like it'd be really interesting to see if that tracks, because people are starting to add like more information in their pictures that are like not like the tell don't show, I guess, the evils of ooh.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm a sucker for the, like you said, with the himbo stuff, like the multiple minus ints and multiple plus strengths and stuff. I do really like that. People should continue to do that, but also I would like to see it explored in that way as well, because I think, like you said, it adds for more of like an enriching visual kind of experience, and it's just, you know, playing with more ideas and more concepts. Like there's so much more that can still be mined from these concepts and these transformations. Or
even like TARS, it like fashion.
Yes.
I've seen a lot more people also get into fashion, which would also be really cool to see for TF people to do. Is like if you turn to a tar, you get like little tar like sandals or little shoes, or ones that actually protect like the front claws, because everyone goes like, oh, I'm going to show the front claws, and it's like every shoe, like none of your shoes like leave out your toes all the time. So like make little protective cover and stuff. So
yeah.
Because I really like the idea of like once you've transformed, like what happens afterwards, and like how the like casual TF, like how you casually live after you've TF'd and stuff.
Yeah,
I find that to be really fascinating, because you can still keep the TF element while still having extra bits to it, and then also being able to connect the two of like, oh well, your feet became bigger, so how did that, like, do you stub your toe more, or do you like walk different and stuff? Like, how does that all work now?
Yeah, how does it affect your stride? And like with tars in particular, it's like, you know, how are you going to manage the locomotion of 4 legs instead of 2 and stuff like that? Like there's a lot that can be explored from that angle.
That's another reason I like Monster Girl comics and stuff. They take the after, and they already start to figure it out, because the transformation isn't a thing, but how do they live? What do they need to, you know, what accommodations do they need? How does clothing work for them? And they have tons of ideas, and if people want to get a clue as to maybe how something could work, you look at them, you look at those monster artists.
Yeah, monster artists are really interesting. I don't follow too many. I should actually follow a lot more, because it is an interesting topic.
I mean, it's just an extension, pretty much, to me, especially if people like thinking about what happens after. That's a great way to get your mind going about it.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I think it's a lost potential for people to not consider that.
Also, another interesting TF that I don't know. I keep talking about TFs I don't see that much, but I would actually like to see more. Is like VR ones, because like there's all the like VR chat is becoming bigger and stuff, so you start seeing more of like the VR turning somebody into something. But it'd be interesting to see like how people incorporate technology into newer TFs, or just being like the setting of like, here's a VR, this is how you change, or like if you only like I don't know. This is gonna. I blanked. Sorry.
Go for it.
I was like, well, how would you TF somebody with like VR? And you could do like, if you look into the VR, then you change, kind of like the Weird Clown Show.
The Amazing Digital Circus.
Yeah, but that's like, well, you could also do it to where like whatever you see in the VR chat world, like you kind of become, but it has to actually like reflect back. Yeah. So like only like your eyes would change, and like you'd get like a little bit of fur around it. But I was like, well, if there's a base station for like the index and stuff, you could get like lasered TF. But I don't know if people want to be like lasered into a creature.
I mean, why not? It's just the same thing. It's related to, TF gun.
But what if the lasers aren't like accurately like positioned? So like you get like the little like old like CRT TV lines on you, so like you're transformed in like a layered thing. So like you have like spacing between the fur, and like you're human and a dog, and it's like, I've complexed this way too much. We're gonna move on.
No, that would be fascinating to see.
Oh, I was already thinking of more stuff too. So I'm there with you, just thinking about let's make this interesting visually.
Also, it's a piece of Zil lore. It's funny you mentioned the Amazing Digital Circus. I'm not gonna like make this too evident, but one of the voice actors on that show is a childhood best friend of mine. So it's been really interesting to see it blow up, and I have seen art of their character in like transformation situations, and I don't know how to feel about that. So I'm just like, all right, y'all have fun. I can't engage with this content because it is making me feel very strange.
I even met this person, and then it's just like, oh yeah, that's my friend, and that's the project they were working on. I'm like, oh shit.
And now here's TF art of their character, and I'm like,
yep.
I see.
And I'm just here like, oh wow, like I'm like a few degrees away from like Gooseworks. That's so weird now.
Hopefully they got the one talk that like all the TV shows get, where it's like, okay, look, I know that you've created this wonderful piece and that you love this world and stuff. but it's going to get Rule 34'd, and I just need to show you a bunch of examples for you to be prepared for all that you're about to see of your creation. Are you okay with this? Like,
oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure at the very least Gooseworks is aware of that, because yeah, that is a tale as old as time at this point now.
They did make the bun. They
did.
They were gonna get something with the bun. I like how the bunny. I like how they put all the purple characters together. So now there's like a cursed picture where like Bonnie and the purple guy is like birthed the little.
Jax, yeah. Oh God. Oh,
so
of course. Oh my God.
It's amazing.
Godspeed to all of the voice actors. I hope that they get to experience as much or as little of that content as they so desire. So,
yes, bless them, because it's so. God, I be an entire fucking episode on that alone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, where's your TF34 episode?
That's an interesting point, actually, because at this point I feel like that is kind of a rule. Like, if a character exists, there will be TF art of them. Yeah, pretty much.
We'll have
like,
to look
at the very least, from like broadly well-known ones. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
bro.
I was just saying that we'll have to look at the list of rules on the internet and amend it. It'll be the new rule.
Yeah. I feel like that one deserves its own number, because like if Rule 60, is it 63? Yeah,
Rule 63.
Rule 63 is going to exist. I mean, that is kind of a TF to some degree. Then yeah, I feel like there should be a distinct TF rule.
Are you sure?
Who's amending these? Who's coming up with these numbers and rules and shit?
I don't know. I think people submit them to 4chan, and then if 4chan says it enough and it leaks everywhere else like a virus, then you have your new internet rule.
Yeah, I forget where the original rules came from, because I don't think the original rules came from 4chan, but they did get popularized from 4chan.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because I was gonna say if 4chan is the arbiter of rules, then we're all screwed.
just internet doctrine bullshit.
Well, how about you, Libra? We haven't got another TF that you like from you yet, so go ahead.
Oh, let's see. Just trying to pick. I think I've already mentioned that I like muscle growth stuff. Not too much, but growth in general has become something that I really enjoy. So I like to see it. I know most people do, but I mean like growth also in different ways. So as long as like something is expanding, I can get a kick out of it. Muscles in particular, because I like buffness, but I also, like toned, things like that. It doesn't always have to be big. Sometimes it just has to be defined. There's something about the prospect of watching the skin ripple and everything like that, which just really, really gets to me. So it's like muscles sliding under skin and watching the contours like change and bulge. It's like a whole nother layer of expression. Muscles do that,
Right.
Yeah, and it's real, and you can embellish it in that kind of stuff. So I like to include it. And if people wonder why my muscle stuff is good at all, that's why.
So you like goo as well, right? I'm pretty sure you like goo.
Me, yeah, I love goo stuff. Oh damn, there was a comic that I found yesterday. It was just like a slime being all it's like a slime fooling around with this girl. And it's just making her boobs like really, really huge, which I'm like, okay, whatever, right? That's fun. And but then there was a second half where she's being turned into a goo girl, but even though it's a pleasurable scene and everything, it's like playful in a kind of uncomfortable way. And I say kind of only because by the end everything's fine and she's herself and everything, just goo girl now. But the very first thing that happens is that her arms get turned into goo and like fall off.
Oh.
And so she's got like these little like tendrils of goo like coming out of her shoulders, but she's like, what the fuck do I do now? And then she's like getting done at a bunch of different angles by the goo girl, but her body seems to be like slowly falling apart. So like when her bottom half turns to goo, it falls away from her. And it's just like, and she's falling apart, and it's horrific, but it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time it's all over, she's just fine. It's like, oh look, porny goo girl. But the journey to get there is just like, whoa. But
wow.
And usually that's not how I see people do it. I've seen people do it like a bunch of different ways too. Like, oh, they get absorbed and then they like split off or something. Yeah, I think goo is great, and you could do a bunch of shit. Like, I don't know. What if you get absorbed, and then what you end up doing is being condensed into a nucleus, and then your outer membrane starts to like push out and develop, and you're pretty much just like let go, and you split off from the other one. You're your own being now. Why not?
Mm-hmm. So I have a question for you two then. So for like, because you're talking about like defined muscles and goo, and Zil, you're talking about like dinosaurs and like the way that they like look and stuff. Do you like the visual?
Yeah.
Like, not that you don't like both, but like, which do you prefer, the visual aspects of a transformation or like the technical aspects of like how like a transformation feels? And can you like imagine the sensory parts of it, or do you just like going like, I like when they look like a tiger because they look like a tiger?
Oh, that's a fucking hard question. Shit.
You think about it. I like both.
Yeah, you go first.
I like both.
Which you like more?
Which do I like more?
Yeah.
I like the visual more, but the visual sort of implies that everything will end up working differently anyway. So I don't know. It's hard for me to separate one from the other. If someone turns into a tiger, I'm going to be thinking about how now their fingertips are essentially now the claws, which can be folded in. They can, like retracted, and and everything. So like that's something that you gotta live with now. So like now with you stretch, you could maybe feel, the claws like slipping out of you when you're just like stretching, not even trying to do anything. And my mind just kind of immediately goes to that. So they're so tied up that I guess I don't know. I don't know if I like one more than the other because I immediately just go. I think it's probably the same for me. I know it's a boring answer, but right as somebody's changing, I think, oh yeah, the claws will scrape on the ground, or you can feel that now it's like different to do whatever. It goes hand in hand for me.
Mm. But it does sound like at the end of the day, the visual does come out a little more on top.
I mean, yeah, if I'm painting or something, it's going to be about how it looks more than anything. So I think about, yeah, okay, so yeah, looks do win out, but not by much. Because okay, this came up last night, and for all you people to get potentially upset, depending on who you are, horse hooves, hand to hooves.
Yeah.
All right. Or like feet to hooves or anything like that. Oh, it's the one big middle finger. Turns out that doesn't have to be the case at all. There was a study done that people found that there were little seams in the bones that kind of indicated that it was many digits that had come together to make the hoof.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking relatively, like comparative anatomy stuff, you can do the finger growing larger and the other one's like doing whatever the fuck you want them to do. But if you do want them to merge together and then like, grow a hoof however you're going to do it, you can do that now and it be anatomically correct. Sometimes, depending on how you're feeling, one can look better than the other. And when I'm making something, I think about how to make it aesthetically pleasing, and balancing something like that with like a corresponding anatomical thing, not necessarily just because I want it to be correct, but also because I want people to sort of be able to put those things together. If your legs are merging, it's just like, ooh, that's weird. Ha ha ha, it's quirky. But, for me with like a snake or something like that, it's like the tailbone is pushing out, but also kind of like pulling and dragging along into your legs and like pulling that in some sort of like strange seamless way. Something that will make you look like, oh, what is happening? Like, I know what that is, but what? And that's the kind of effect that I want too. So yes, the visual wins out a bit more in terms of like what, like, versus what's happening, what it does.
Yeah. Interesting. I thought it over. I'm the opposite. I think the sensation wins out for me. And when I was trying to think about it, I was also thinking about like how I most often interface with TF, and like in any sort of a situation where I'm getting the opportunity to like, role play a transformation or something like that, I think of how I kind of act in those situations, and I almost always like shut my eyes now that I think about it, because to me, the idea and like imagining of those kinds of sensations is just so much more like riveting to me, I guess. And even when it comes to like, in stories, I'm going to gravitate more to like the description of how the person is feeling throughout the change, or like any sort of like phantom senses that they're gaining or losing or anything like that. And even when it comes to art, I find that some of the most interesting pieces are the ones that at least allude to some sort of sensation, be it touch or otherwise, be it in, how the person is reacting to their changes or et cetera, et cetera. Both obviously very much appeal to me. It feels like picking between two like children for like which one's your favorite. But yeah, I do think the sensation weighs out for me just on like a pure raw, like that's what I would prioritize. Like if I'm getting to go through a transformation, I'm going to prioritize how I feel through it versus how I look at the end. So,
and what about you, Core?
So full disclosure, that I remembered that question because I was watching a video by Patricia Taxon, who they do great music and videos. And one of the things that they started talking about was sensory stuff. And it was, when I was like listening to it, I was like, well, that's what I like. So, because like when I start from an idea, it usually comes from like, how do things work together? Like, how do you make a situation? A lot of that comes from the idea of like, well, how do things actually interact? So it's like, well, if you like, how does fur actually feel? How does how would you deal with like other objects? How would you feel internally? If you're like different temperatures, like what would you gravitate towards? And so like, I'm definitely more of a sensory sort of person when it comes to like transformation stuff, but also like I do really like visual stuff because I like how something also kind of looks at points, but it's still always wrapped up in that like how would the person feel in that situation, and then figuring out what way to like how to make it look like it feels. And so like that's the thing that like always makes me like happy to like think about that, or for me to like think further, because like if I actually do feel something, like if you actually get to pet an animal, or if you get to like touch like some weird thing, and then you're like, oh well, this feels with this thing and I never thought about that, so then what about this thing, or how does this move, or like I don't know, just watching like weird experiment videos online where like weird things happen and it's like, oh, that's how that works, well then what about this and that. So like yeah, I really think that like the idea of what something feels is like really important. And
yeah,
so you work backwards in a way.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not always backward. Well, I guess yeah, it depends on like which way you're coming from it.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that. It's a matter of perspective, but in the end, you're drawing something, so you're depicting it visually. And whenever I would see stuff, it was a matter of, oh, how must that feel? And that's after I had seen it. You know what I mean? But after you get your head into this stuff and you really put a bunch of thought and time into it, then it becomes kind of an order of operation. And I think that I think that when it comes to changes, I think people see the thing and then wonder, well, how must it feel to go through that? That's why that's why I think implicitly it's technically working backwards from feeling to visual, because that's the sort of like thing that's the only way that people ever really think about it, right? Is seeing it in the first place.
Well, I think that's where like I feel like that would be where most people start out, because that's like where I started out. When I was younger, it was like looking at a transformation in a movie or a show or something and being like, oh, I want to imagine that now. And then kind of after that, like being able to have like so many ideas of like what transformation was, that then I could be like, well, this is the sort of thing that I actually want to focus on, because I found the things that I actually like. I really like the idea of having fur, which so I may have or may not have taken some substance that is legal in certain states and figured out that I really like it when there's a blanket that's very fuzzy, because I really like the feeling of touching that and being able to like feel all like the little different hairs and bristles. So it's that sort of thing where it's like, after feeling that, it's like, oh, well, then how would this work and that work? So like, but to get to that point required kind of like seeing other things first, because otherwise there's no library in your head of like what's going on, which is why watching like science videos too, where it's like, oh, that's a thing that happens, is like kind of required. So it kind of feeds into each other. For art, you do require kind of figuring out how you feel and then turning it into and translating that into visuals. But you need the visuals first to figure out that there's that info even there in the first place. So like, it's a very, I mean, it's always going to be symbiotic, but like, yeah, nowadays I feel like I go based off of just kind of like, I want to know what this feels like and what would the end result be.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Honestly, that's a really interesting way to kind of key into that and find a way to kind of, in a way, experience those kinds of sensations that normally you wouldn't really be able to.
Yeah.
To me, that's the magic of making all kinds of fantastic monsters and stuff. It's also why with the transformations that I do like, I would rather them be happening to somebody else. I have wanted to feel more things, so I've been exploring with changing myself. But I think it's more fun if I, the human, get to experience somebody else's strange body that way.
I see.
Yeah, because if I normalize it with myself, it's not as interesting. I want to admire the different sort of beauty or power from the perspective that I know the most, because I think that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah. No, that is the unique attraction of, if you are like, you know, getting to see someone else change. I find, at least personally, I really like those as well, because again, you get to have a lot of that kind of sensory change. I just want to be changed first, then I'll experience it on the other side, you know?
Yeah.
Actually,
I get that.
Recently, so since I've been moving for like the past few months, I've been like doing a bunch of other things. And I haven't had access to like VR at all. So I just got it back because I actually need to finish a project very quickly. I put the headset on, and like the first time that I wore the headset and like saw my own Sona in the mirror, like it was like a very, very big dopamine rush that like after a while I had lost, because it was like, well, now I'm just kind of like in VR chat all the time, so like like I still get the dopamine, but it's not as much. And then like after being away for a while and like getting that again, like I got the big dopamine rush and I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy. So yeah, I feel like if there was ever a like if anyone was ever going to get transformed, and like everyone would be able to be transformed in a room, but who got to do it first, I would definitely probably rush to it really quickly. I'm not going to lie to you. Because I would want to experience first. Agree.
Yeah. No, there's an attraction to that. And, you know, I think the VR mention is a really great point, because, you know, I've gotten to spend time in both VR chat and Resonate now. And, you know, there is that really strong appeal of getting to see yourself depicted in a form that you feel more comfortable in or wish you had, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, like your brain kind of, I think, makes connections to like logic it in a way, because like we all know what it is. Like we're putting on a headset and we're seeing something different. But I find, at least in terms of like brains for people like ourselves who have the TF brain rot to some degree, like you can kind of extrapolate like, but what happened? How did I start to experience this? Blah, blah, blah. And you know, one of the other things that stands out to me is like, and I don't personally have this, but I know that there are VR headsets where like you don't even need necessarily like the controllers. So like if you hold out your hands, for example, and you can see your like different hands being reflected back. Like that's like chef's kiss. And it is, in a way for us to kind of experience a transformation of sorts. And so getting to see yourself visually and experience those sensations of, like potentially holding your arm out and seeing that it's different. I mean, that's what we're all going for at the end of the day. Like the transhumanism that kind of underlines a lot of like furry and TF stuff is very strong as a through line. So
yeah, and I'm really interested because there is some people who are like trying to test out like the ARG aspect of it, where like you can have a camera that like matches what your model looks like. So like you can actually be like wearing the headset, have your like actual room be the background, and still have your avatar overlay it. So like you don't see yourself, but you actually see the avatar in the space, which I find will be, if that can be a thing that actually gets perfected to where like if you start swinging your arm, you're not seeing like your human arm and your little anthro arm at the same time. I feel like that'd be really interesting to see. And especially with like newer headsets having like what you said, having like no controllers, like the Apple one, like that would be interesting to see, because like I know furries work at all these companies. I know that they can start having avatars. So if they start not having controllers, they need to have the option to where like, do you want your hand to be a human hand, or do you want a robotic hand, or do you want to have like little dog paws, and like you're just like looking like through the internet and you're like a dog scratching everything. Like that's something I'm really excited for, if companies or like anyone actually takes advantage of that, because like it'd be really interesting to see like both newer people being like, oh, well, I can choose what my hand looks like, or like how I actually look like. And that's like the closest to TF that we're going to get in the close future that doesn't require wearing a carpet for a few hours. So
yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And it's always, not to get too much into the VR discourse, but that was always one of the things that I found funniest about all the shit that Facebook/Meta was trying to do. It was like, oh yeah, you just don't have legs. And I'm like, I know furries work at your company. Who the hell is advising you on these changes? Like, this is not what anyone is looking for from like a transhumanist perspective or otherwise. Like, what are you guys doing?
It's Bill from HR. He doesn't want the legs.
Yeah.
You know that the fucking idea that they had was just artistically bankrupt.
I mean, yes, that is true. But it's still frustrating because we know that there are all these things that can be possible. And it's really just a question of who is going to win out in the influence game of trying to make these things happen. It's like, I don't know. There is something like there's something that's so exciting about all of this, and there's something that is so very, very depressing that so much of this exciting stuff that could happen is in the hands of capitalism. And I'm just like, why?
I'll like capitalism if it can turn me into a dog. And if VR can have me be dog, I'll be like, well, I'm now slightly capitalist. Here we go.
You want to be capitalist dog.
Yeah. Or capitalist cat. Because that's like the traditional one. But like the modern one would be the dog. So, or the capybara. Capitalist capybara.
Well, there's the fat cats and the capitalist dogs.
I guess so.
The dogs work. The cats get fed off the dogs' labor, because that's how fucking cats are.
Very true.
Can confirm as cat.
Stop it! You're ruining everything.
I'm sorry. I know it's my fault.
Fucking psychopaths.
Look, I was born to eat hot chip, charge a phone, and smash crates with a wrench. Okay, I don't know what you want from me.
Do better. Record demands you do better.
Okay, fine. I feel like I was gonna talk about like pool toys potentially, but like I feel like I've talked about it so many times on this podcast, so I want to try and mention one more that is not any of those. I really like Dragon TFs, and I get that that's like a very like, I mean, it kind of builds on dinosaurs to some degree, not quite, but like I know that's kind of basic bitch at this point when it comes to transformation content, but because they're a fictional species, again, there's like the option to do a lot of really interesting and creative permutations. Like, yes, of course, there's like the whole like, oh, you can mix and match stuff from like Western versus Eastern approaches, but like you can do so much more than that. Like there are so many different interesting and innovative ways you can, visualize a quote unquote dragon. And I kind of wish that when it came to transformation content, there was more variety on those like fronts, because again, like we've seen it in fictional media of like dragons being depicted in atypical ways, and those ones usually like stand out visually and like stick with you. And so I kind of wish that was also the same with transformation content. I find that it usually pretty closely hews to one of those, like Eastern versus Western, or I guess Pokemon, which, yes, that's technically inventive, but it is like at the end of the day just based directly off of like a media kind of profile. And don't get me wrong, I love my Pokemon Dragon TFs. This is not me shitting on those, but I think the endless possibilities when it comes to Dragon TF is again something that I find really interesting. And I guess like this comes back to my indecisive philosophy around like, I like so many different kinds of TF. I want to just have lots of options. And so I get to each option and I'm like, but there's so many things you can explore within each one. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's an opportunity to do more with like dragons, and I wish that was capitalized on a little more. And like, I like all kinds, don't get me wrong. I'm always happy when I see one, but I do feel like there is an untapped potential there that is being missed on to some degree.
I think there hasn't been quite as much lately, which actually I miss it. I miss it now.
Yeah. There's like, I mean, I will say that one of the artists I see who consistently pumps them out is Nico, who does a great job with them. I really like his Dragon TFs. But yeah, I would agree there's like been kind of a dip, at least in terms of the content that I've seen. And it's also funny because like this happened at the same time as like some pretty large like media franchises had dragons at the forefront. Like I know it's kind of passe to talk about now, but like there's the whole Game of Thrones / House of the Dragon stuff. Like dragons are a very big part of both those franchises, and I still didn't quite see as much dragon content as I would have imagined, especially because House of the Dragon is like ongoing right now, and like I haven't seen the show. Apparently it's very good, but I know there's dragons in it, and I'm not really seeing that reflected anywhere. So I don't know, it's slightly saddening because I miss my Dragon TF content.
Wait, so what's one of the like biggest examples of untapped potential that you could like name for an artist to draw?
So there, I'm forgetting the name of the piece of media now. Oh, this is gonna bother me. So there was a water dragon I saw one time that, in terms of like the inspiration, was really, really cool. And now it's really bothering me that I don't remember where it's from. But it was like very much like it had fins instead of like limbs. And was still otherwise like very much visually like a dragon, but it was underwater, and it had the whole like aquatic theme going on, and like that just like was really interesting. I was like, I haven't seen something like that before. Why am I not seeing more variations like this? There's been like, I'm trying to think of like other examples right now in terms of like variations. I mean, wow, I am drawing a complete fucking blank. Well, there you go. I cannot, besides that one that stands out in my mind, because that was the one I was thinking of when I was originally thinking about like this idea in general. There should be more variation because there's so much you could do with it. But yeah, I'll have to try and like look that up later because it's gonna bother me now.
Okay, so now I'm curious, Core, is there a like basic bitch type of transformation that you still like really, really like?
I mean, my favorite one is still just the species one. So I'm still at the basic one.
Well,
so like
do you have a favorite species though?
What makes that like so basic though? And yeah, that's another question then. Like what species is like at the top, either one or several or whatever?
So I think it's basic because I think that a lot of people get into transformation by like werewolves, and that's basically just like you have turned from one species to another. It's not like, oh, you turned into the sun, or you've turned, or like there's a like petrification or merging, or like none of like the actual extra steps. It's just like you are now dog. And like that's the sort of thing where it's like it's not actually basic if you talk to like a normal person, because they'd be like, well, you turned into a werewolf. But like for furry levels of stuff, it's just like, oh, you're a baby, you've just got into TF learning about werewolves. Oh, I have like 100 other pages to show you now. So yeah, so the thing that my favorite transformation would either be something like a werewolf or actually dragon. Like I really like the idea of being a dragon too, because like you have like the extensive world, like usually they're in like really cool worlds, so it's like, well, you can already like isekai your way there, I guess, but also like you have like different temperatures, so like even though you're a cold-blooded creature, maybe because you have fire, you can still be warm-blooded, or you don't have to have like a coat, and then you have like the really cool texture and stuff like that. So like dragons would probably be my favorite species transformation, but also I like werewolves, so things approximating close to that is also the thing that I also really like. But again, if anyone ever looks at my art, they'll see like I like a bunch of other things too, so like I've grown away from that, but the roots are still I want to be dog. that's like the core. Somewhere deep inside there's a little ball that says core, and it's just like dog.
I dig it.
Makes sense to me. All things for me, like all kinds of monster girls and stuff, but it's like, oh yeah, so what's your ultimate one? I'm like, it's Felicia. Pretty much like the first one that I really got into. It's still her. It's pretty funny that way. But I would have to say that my most basically bitch one is still like, not just because of Felicia, but also I just really like big cat transformations. So like leopards, jaguars, tigers, things like that. You know, snow leopards, they fucking are so fucking cool. And I think that I always feel like blending feline features into humans can make for really, really amazing qualities. Especially if they start to move like them, stuff like that. I like the little themes of touch, you know, like, oh, you know, you give a lot of pets and love and things like that, and what if they start changing like that because I like touch, all those sort of things. Cats still have a really potent place for me when it comes to having somebody change into something. Even if it's just like a house cat too. I've seen some really good stuff with that. I just prefer big ones because I like power.
Yeah. I will say I don't see a lot of house cat TFs, with the exception of the one person who's like holding up the house cat TF fandom, which is, oh my gosh, I don't know how to say their name, but it's SIGE, who has like a house cat persona with like the blue eye, or like the blue pattern around the eye. Single-handedly holding up like house cat TFs in terms of what I see on my page. So.
Oh man, there's one I gotta show you that I found on DA that I was like, wow, I can't believe that this doesn't get shared around, because it's really fucking very good. But it's a fucking house cat, and I thought to myself, man, you know, I'm sleeping on that. I really am.
Yeah. Also, I found the water dragon I was talking about. So it's from Ben 10.
Oh, you know.
It's so it's called the Kraken, but if you look at the design, it's basically a water dragon, and it's really cool. And I'm like, can we please have more dragons like this? Like, that is inventive. It looks interesting. I don't know what the fuck's going on with its mouth, but that's great. Like, please, can we have like more dragons like that, please? Because like that's cool. Also, I haven't seen a TF into that, but like there should be one.
Honestly, I'd be interested for you to see. I don't know if I can find the picture, but there's like a seahorse dragon. I don't think it was a TF. I think it was just the seahorse dragon, but it'd be interesting to see if you like that one. If I can find it, I will send it to you.
Okay, thank you. Also, seahorse TFs are great and very, very underrated, and I wish there were more. That came to my mind when you said that. I have not seen a lot of them, but they're so cool. like there's like the whole like fusing of the like limbs that you can do, and you know, like there's the face extending, and like there's the whole like sexual dimorphism that can come into play as well, and the back spines, and yeah, seahorse TF is good too. Y'all are sleeping on that.
If you like horse, why not seahorse?
Yeah, exactly.
The males can also lay eggs.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, it's all very cool.
They can conceive. They can give birth.
You can turn it into an egg. TF egg.
Egg TF, another good one, in my opinion.
I actually don't think I've seen that. I don't think I've ever seen that, actually.
An egg TF. Oh, well, there is a sequence. I don't remember how old it is. Or maybe it was a single picture. I might be wrong. But Dragonstorm, who we had on recently, did an egg TF as part of his like ABCs of TF. And it was a guy that was turning into an egg. And that image imprinted into my mind. And I'll leave it at that. But very good. Very good
I've
stuff,
not seen
I
that
got to say.
I'll have to look that up later.
I'll find it for
thank you.
But yeah, egg TF is good. That's another one where I feel like the draw is very much around like the shape itself. Like there's something very appealing in having your shape change in such a foreign way, and like not have like a one-to-one mapping over like your limbs or like what happens to them and all that good stuff. I really dig those kinds of like approaches to transformation, and there definitely are not like a wide variety of depictions of those, in my opinion. So
that's how I feel about horses too. It's another very basic bitch thing that I also really like, but horses are so fucking weird, and they're gigantic, and they and you could do all the comparative anatomy shit that you want. They're still fucking bizarre. They can't vomit. And you're like, why do you even think about that? Because you would think that, oh yeah, you know, that it's just a thing. Things throw up, don't they? Not that thing. That thing is that weird.
Yeah.
If a horse is vomiting, they're on the verge of death. Just know that.
Yeah, horses are like the glass cannons of the world, where like they're really strong, they're really fast, but if anything breaks on them, they're like completely like just destroyed. Like you cannot harm them at all, or they just falter.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
So horse for play, not for real. That's it.
Yeah, antler horses don't have all the problems that horses actually have.
That's true.
Yeah, they get the human advantages. They probably get more stamina too.
Mm-hmm. And they even get songs made about them. That's great.
They do.
That's true. That's true. Oh man.
Oh, sphinxes.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Love sphinxes. That's something that is that has very, very little of. And people have done fascinating thing with sphinxes, and you could pretty much make them in a variety of ways too, not unlike a dragon. Because I think a lot of people would find them boring because, oh, you don't really do much to the face, or sometimes nothing. But I don't fucking care. I think they're amazing, and they can be extremely pretty, or you can make them, you know, you could just make them like totally fucking erotic. I like the idea that you got this head on top of a on the top of a beastly body. Sometimes, you know, I've seen people kind of do like the forelegs a bit more like hands, but often they don't. Sometimes they don't have breasts. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they like to have the rows of them. It's all kinds of shit. You could do things with like the feathers. Sometimes they have no wings. And you can also make sphinxes out of all kinds of other creatures too. Yeah. It's like that sort of creature where you put those attributes together, I think is fucking great. I like to imagine that you could make the noises that the creature, you're part of, or that you're more like, you can also make those noises and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I really like sphinxes, and to be honest, there is also an appeal in having the face change only a little bit or not at all, because it highlights the contrast and the inhumanness of what you have become. Like, yes, there is a visual reminder that you at one point were not, a monster, a creature, what have you. And it's just subtle enough. But the face, obviously, is something that we as humans connect with quite distinctly, and like that's how you remember a lot of people. So to still have that visual reminder atop like this like monstrous creature, I think is such an interesting contrast. And like you said, this can be explored from a variety of different angles. Like it could be a different creature. How does the actual makeup of the creature change? Like, is there a little bit of change to the face? Is there none? Do you have like, how does the limb structure work? You can even have like sphinx tours. Like there's so many different things that you can do with them, just like any kind of fictional creature. And to me, it just allows for a lot more creativity.
Yeah, I like, I don't know where I've seen it, but I've seen a sphinx that had like multiple people as like multiple heads on the sphinx. And like, that was really interesting to see like the different body parts also like they had like a snake tail too and stuff. Like it was very interesting to see like that being a whole like system of like a creature rather than just the one person themselves as well.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I don't think I've seen that, so I'll have to be on the lookout for that too.
I think I've seen stuff like that too. It's been a while though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I had one more TF, but I don't know if it's U2 TFs, which is cock tongue. Because like the moving of body parts. Okay, so the moving of body parts, because like I'm surprised there's not a lot of that. Like I've seen the reverse where people turn into a butt, but it's just like if you're gay and you're a guy who likes gay, then why would you not have dick as like tongue, and so that you can have like
suck all
like
the time.
constant blowjob, but also like like there's so many things you can do, and I'm just surprised no one like people don't switch around body parts like that, even though people do switch around body parts for transformation stuff. It's like, why not that one?
Okay.
Do that one more.
So,
So
So the space that we often, spaces we're often occupied in is a furry space, okay? Furries have particular interests. They're very narrow, but if you're into transformation, the idea of being or enjoying the strange or the difference or, the process of that and everything, your priorities are going to be different. The reason people haven't thought about it is because if you're thinking about the furry space, they're into being furries themselves, other furries, assuming they even have the idea of changing into it in the first place. Sometimes it's just, skip to the end, sort of, there isn't really thought about becoming it. So that's why they wouldn't really think about this kind of stuff. That's why we have, TFTuesday Podcast and not TF Furries or something like that. Because even that is a little different.
But even then, I would think that there would be more of an interest from like gay TF fans in that kind of a thing. Because let's be honest, a big part of the fascination there is very phallic, and so you would think, well, if you can just like move the dick around, like that seems like it would be something that would be of interest. I mean, I've definitely seen cock monsters before. There's definitely a sub-genre of people who are really into that, where it's just dicks all over the place. But yeah, I haven't seen many that is just cock tongues, which is a missed opportunity in my opinion, because I think that would be pretty fun, honestly.
Yeah, because I would have figured furries would have gone more towards that. Because like there are definite, like, I can't name them because I'm very bad at names, but I know there are specific people who do like the cock monster and things like that. So it's like, and they're popular people too. So it's like, why is that not transferred over? Because like the few times that like I've drawn that, I've had people come into my DMs and be like, oh my god, I love this, I didn't ever think about this, and then they like actually draw it. So it's like, why not more?
Yeah, why not
why
more?
not more?
This is what I'm constantly thinking about so many different kinds of TF. Honestly, I'm like, come on,
I'm telling
guys.
you, there is still a separation. You would think there's an overlap. For me, it was a big dumb. Like, oh yes, of course I can find more of this stuff in the furry website, the big furry website. But also, it's not that surprising to me that I would separate them, because a lot of people are like, oh, what do you mean by transformation? What the fuck do you think I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, it's just homophobic that people don't like cock tongues. become
Yeah, I
homophobic
agree.
and make more cock tongues.
Yeah, it's homophobic. Can't believe this.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Hey, I like cock transformation in general, so I'm not that homophobic.
Okay, well, we're making progress.
Actually, you know what? I might as well throw that in there. Yeah, I do like cock transformation.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I like chicks turning into dicks, even if they're just like really big ones, like the size of their bodies and stuff like that. It is pure.
2 thumbs up.
It is purely for the idea of overwhelming pleasure and like a pleasure feedback loop. I remember finding myself just thinking about it a lot, and at first I was just like, "Oh man, what a thing! I never thought about this." But the more I thought about it, the more I looked at it, the more I realized, wait, this is. I'm actually into this, and it just looks incredibly fucking weird, and you can make it like really sadistic, but I'm not about that. And I've also seen some people who are just like, oh yeah, you know, you blow each other's minds and you blow at the same time, and it's fun and it's good and
It's so good.
and it's so fucking weird, and that fits the bill for a lot of things, and it's so indulgent.
Oh, absolutely. It's overly indulgent, and I love it.
Which is-
I heavily concur with all of that. Like 11 out of 10. I am all about the cock TF. So
Yeah, I'm very particular about it being like a very pleasurable thing and having that feedback loop, because like when I first saw it, it was more of the sadistic side of it, of like, oh, I have no control over you because now you're my dick. But like over time, I actually liked it because of that whole pleasure aspect of it, like the sensation and stuff. And also talking to people who are like, oh yeah, I'm this person's cock. I love it. And like being able to talk about like why is like always really fascinating. Because people get very into being the dick.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which fine, I get it. That's easier to grapple with some other things, which, you know, regardless of how I feel, I know some people are into some shit that I'm just like, no, absolutely not, ever.
But at least I get why you're into it.
Yeah, but then like even those people get really weird about the idea of cock transformation, and I don't understand why. Like, you really can't place it, even with little speech and thought bubbles saying, "Oh my god, it's so good because of this," and you're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm like, but look at you. Look at the stuff that you're like posting and sharing all the time. You mean you can't put yourself in that kind of zone? It's a fucking layup, man.
There's a cognitive dissonance, I think, sometimes between people who are like, oh, I just can't get it. And I'm like, you're into these other things. I don't understand how you can't see the connection. But
yeah, like that's even more abstract,
right.
where I have to ask you questions. But this is about busting a nut. Busting like a massive nut. Busting a massive nut with joined minds who are feeling it and sharing it between each other. And that concept, that basic concept, doesn't even at least like connect with you in some way. Like, what the fuck, man? Frustrated.
They need to merge together to figure it out.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, guys. It's temporary. Well, you won't regret it. That's another way I like it to be. I like it to be temporary because I want to keep feeling that over and over again.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can concur there.
Oh man. just yeah. I don't want to complain too much because this is about just our favorite stuff. But yeah, it's hard to get over the fact that it has to be spoken of in hushed tones. I don't know why. I don't know why. You know, like I want you to make sure that my cock turns into X animal dick or something. But that's not hushed tone shit, is it?
Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, there is an element of like how far away from the quote unquote norm is something, and the further away something might be, the more that people feel like they have to be like strained or like in hushed tones talking about it. And it's so strange to me when we are in a like community fan, whatever you want to call it, that is already like a million miles away from the mainstream.
It's the furry thing. I'm telling you, it's got to be the furry thing. Furries are like any other group of people, and they want certain kinds of familiarity, and so they're gonna keep going for that.
Yeah, that's just kind of how humans operate, which is always the fun part, because then you get all the fun culture and stuff, but it does come with that baggage of having to fit within that specific type of culture until somebody breaks it, and then it reforms and breaks and reforms. The cycle of life, culture,
change.
Yeah.
TF.
Change.
It is.
The entire fandom is TF if you think about it. That's actually a true statement. I've just made it sound like a
To quote the legendary song Tom Sawyer by Rush, in case you didn't know, change is not permanent, but changes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very deep.
Yeah, I love Tom Sawyer. People should love that song. People should like Rush.
Well, I do have one question from the audience that I want to make sure we got to. And this comes from Galen T. Beaver. Can't imagine what the T stands for. Galen asks, if you were offered the chance to turn into your Sona, but first you had to land a standing backflip, how long would it take you to get into shape for it? And would it be worth it? And then in brackets, you're not protected from the possibility of hurting yourself while training.
So do a standing backflip so you can change into something that you want.
How long do you think it would take you to master it? To actually land it without injuring yourself?
If I would be really serious about it. I think I would like to think something like 2 to 3 years, because I'd have to get in shape in the first place, and then I'd have to make the time to go to a place where I can learn how to do it, and then just finally get on a mat and just be like, whoop, holy shit, I fucking did it. And that will be the first mistake, because I won't be home when it happens.
Oh, true. That's a good point. Yeah, I was trying to think about this question, and I was like, I don't know if I'd ever be able to do it, and that would be very sad. I don't know. I'm not as flexible as I used to be. There was a time in my life where maybe I could have done that, but I am post car crash me, and I'm just like, oof, that on my back, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it. So I don't know. I'd probably try for a number of years to like figure out a way to practice or something, but I would be, I think, a bit too scared to like permanently injure myself. So
I think that if you wanted to learn how to do a standing backflip, you probably have an okay time learning how to be a professional wrestler, which I did for a little while. And I realized that I kind of had to learn how to do, I had to learn how to flip myself onto my back by doing a jump, a deliberate jump that would flip me and just land me on my back for a hip toss. And that shit was extremely hard, and I didn't spend enough time learning it. But I realized a long time ago that if I did learn how to do a hip toss, I could just go the extra mile and try to learn how to just do a standing front flip, which would have been fucking cool.
Yeah. No, that would have been great.
What about you, Core?
It'd be, how technical would the specifications be for completing the task? Because you could technically like do a standing backflip into the pool, which would be like, if you don't land it properly, is better. But also you could like, because like the problem with the standing backflip is like the distance you have for jumping and then landing. So are you allowed to like have jump and then go down further into like foam? Like that's the first thing I would think of. It's like, can I cheat this?
Isn't it a standing front flip? Isn't it a standing front flip? Which I know seems like kind of like semantic.
No, it's a backflip.
Oh, it is a backflip.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, oh well, yeah. Sorry. Well, anyway, yeah. Still, continue.
Yeah. Can I like use the little like flippy device, like that thing that you strap into to like flip upside down, so you feel like your back feels better? Can you just like unhinge it so that like you spin and so you land? Like, is that technically allowed? Because you did stand at one point. Like, that's the first thing I would probably do. And if I couldn't like cheat, then I would just take the time to like do that, and it probably wouldn't take too long, because like I can already like forwards. I can do like okay. So when I was younger, I lived near a place that like did parkour. So I was like, I want to learn parkour. So I did like attempt some things, and like I was okay at it. So it'd probably take me a few months, but like I don't think it'd be that difficult. And also, whenever I've like in figure skating or anything, whenever I've landed like super terribly, I've usually been fine. So unless I land on my neck, I feel like I'd probably turn out okay.
No, that is fair. So hold on, you figure skated as well?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things to do. I actually, in a local competition, won 2 gold medals for both. I forget what it was. It was like both for form, and then one was for like a dance routine. And I loved figure skating a lot. It was the best thing. I would still figure skate, but I need to get the actual professional shoes because the rental shoes that everyone gets will break my ankles because of people like changing in and out of it. The boots actually aren't that tight, and also like the blade that you get is actually really important because the high jumps and anything that you do, like it's a lot of force because you're putting an entire body onto a little knife on the bottom of your shoe. So you need the specific type of blade, and also there's a pick at the end. If you go to a rental,
the pick's so important.
Yeah, if you go to rental places, they have a quote unquote pick, which is an inverted pick, and like I need the version where there's an actual like pick on the outside because otherwise I fall flat on my face because it's like, oh, I have the little pick that I can put my little toes on, and then I don't have that. And it's like,
and you just face plant.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Back when I was a teenager, I also used to do professional figure skating.
Nice.
So that's a fun fact to learn. That's very cool.
Yeah, transformation via figure skating.
Yes.
Okay, well,
I
need to write that down. That would actually be fun.
Oh man. Well, that was all the questions that I had from the audience. I don't know, Core, if you had any questions, any additional questions for Libra and I know you've already asked some, but any other additional questions for us about anything related to transformation?
I'm gonna avenge the one episode. Jack and Daxter. How do you guys feel about Jack and Daxter TF?
So I will say that Jack and Daxter, the games, was something I experienced a little bit later in life than might be expected. I didn't get into Ratchet and Clank until it was on the PS3, so I had to kind of go back to play some of the Jack and Daxter games. But Otzel TF good, Otzel TF great even, I would wager. And, I continue to just be so pleasantly surprised that it was such an important part, like the trope of transformation was such an important part of the games right from the get-go. So it's always going to have my undying respect for that alone. So yeah, I would say 2 thumbs up.
You won't like my answer. I really don't care. I wouldn't have even realized that it had that kind of transformation if it wasn't mentioned here. I never played the Jack and Daxter games, and I never wanted to, and I still don't really want to.
That's fair.
Maybe somebody else could change my mind. Maybe I think there was
shame.
Too bad.
It depends on what you want because the first game is actually really nice for exploration. Like the story is based off of TF and stuff, but like the actual gameplay tends to not do that as much. Like you could technically try to force your way into it there, but it's mostly just the story. But the second game, they went edgy and wanted to be a GTA clone. So they do actually directly have a gameplay mechanic where you transform into Dark Jack and have better powers. And by that, it's just you can beat up people while zapping everyone. And that's very fun to do when you have the chance. And then the third game, they actually do explore that more, where it's like you have a light mode and a dark mode, and those two can have different abilities. So like the first game, if you like just exploring places and collecting things like Banjo-Kazooie or anything like that, that's definitely a game to check out. The second and third game, still very good. Especially the second game if you like really hard games. It is a very hard game.
It's very hard.
But like that one I have a harder time getting people into because I think the first game was really special for the exploration, and the second one was very much like we were trapping you inside a box and you just have to platform very well now. And it's like very fun, but also a little depressing.
Yeah, I prefer the first game over the other two. So.
See, now that it's put that way to me, I'm like, challenge brain coming in.
Yeah, Jack 2 is notoriously hard. Like at as a kid, it's a lot harder. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier, but there's certain levels that like you if you don't do it correctly, you will swear. Or there's one infinite mini game that you have to beat. That's just a little whack-a-mole game, and like if you're not good at whack-a-mole, you're gonna be stuck there for a while. Also, one of the bosses is just a bullshit. So, if you like hard games,
yes, this is also true.
Jak and Daxter 2.
We'll consider.
Oh, God, that fucking game. Oh.
But I've avenged the episode, so.
You have. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Koor. And of course, if people are looking for you on the internet, where can they find you?
I am Koorivlf online. You can find me at koorivlf.com. I have a little website that goes to all my other websites. And all those websites are basically every single website in existence, because everything breaks, so I make sure that I'm omnipresent. But I'm usually mostly on Blue Sky right now, because I've been moving, so I've been lazy, so I've just kind of been like, this is my little comfort space.
Yeah.
Sounds
No, that's a good selection. And yeah, you're like 5 steps ahead of people having the website, honestly, so good on you for that.
It's very fun. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was very cool.
Yeah, no, it was great to have you back. And yeah, it's weird saying this is like the 80th episode, but it's been a very interesting journey to get here at the end of season 4, and we're excited to do more for season 5. I will say that I will be at MFF that's coming up, and on December 1st at, I believe, 6:30, we will have our TF Tuesday podcast live panel there at MFF. So if you are going to MFF, please come to our panel and check us out. I will be there with a very special guest, and we'll be chatting about various different things related to transformation. And we're excited for what the new year will bring and all the fun stuff we have lined up already for season 5. And I'm excited to just continue producing more episodes like this. So, yeah, I don't know if you had anything else you want to add as well, Libra.
Go check out the panel. Zil works really hard and tries to make sure that it's a meaningful experience for people. I wish I could be there, but I'm hoping that things pan out in the future where, I could be involved in something like that. I never done anything like that before, but I really want to try. But in the meantime, since, this one is out there going to places cross-country, just to, well, not across, almost cross-country, half cross-country.
Yeah.
and being like, I'm not just going to go to the convention, I'm going to contribute to it. Please do check it out, especially if you're someone who has either like a passing interest or maybe actually wants to break into actually, communicating with people. It's a very good opportunity to do that. I can think of very few other people that would be great to talk to if you want to actually start, not feeling alone in this.
And you'll have good topics to bring up if you subscribe to this channel and listen to all the podcasts, so that you know what people like, and you can be like, wow, I really like that, or like, I like Jak and Daxter, you also like Jak and Daxter, let's talk about that, then transform into a Notzel and stuff.
Yeah, leave comments and shit. Come on. Make it so that even normies show up. We'd like to explain to normies in a comprehensive way exactly how shit works.
Yeah.
I love talking to normies about TF. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the consequence of going mainstream. There are lots of people who are like, I want this to be mainstream. I want more people to make this. I want like big money behind it. Well, there you go. You gotta have it. You can't be you can't be both like socially anxious and terrified that people will know, and also have it mainstream and have lots of stuff that anywhere you can go you can do it. You can't do it.
Yeah.
So
you gotta have one or the other. So
you gotta become a big subby.
Show your normie friends too. Sorry, what's that?
You gotta become a big subby. You gotta all sub. Get your friends to sub. Get your coworkers to sub. Get your bosses to sub, and then you can talk about stuff. And it's like, wow, I got a promotion because I subscribed to TF Tuesday Podcast. Like, wow, amazing.
Yeah, your boss is into it.
I love it.
I'm sure your boss is probably into it and too ashamed.
Yeah.
Too ashamed. But we can make things better. We can build class solidarity here for once. You know what I mean? We can do all kinds of things. It'd be great. Make season 5 something for everybody to look forward to. Even more people.
Agreed.
Thank you, Core. Thank you so much for really laying it out. Because
couldn't have said it better myself. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, everyone, for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it. I won't be seeing you next week, but in the meantime, and until we return in mid-January, I hope that you all have a wonderful time. You enjoy your holiday season, as it were, and the snow that is soon to be upon us in the Northern Hemisphere. I hope that you all get some good sleep. I hope that you, stay active, even amidst the dwindling light again in the Northern Hemisphere. But I hope that you have an awesome time. Keep an open mind and stay TF, and we'll see you back here.
Go out together. Come out with me into the abyssal darkness. Do not fear the sun being gone. Do not fear
the Reaper.
Don't fear the abyssal darkness, because we are here together.
Hell yeah.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.